production of WEDU PBS, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota.
Rise of the Rays is supported in part by Duke Energy, Microlumen, and Kane's Furniture.
Major League Baseball is discussing its expansion plans.
The National League is so tight-lipped that really the only thing we have to go on are rumors.
Have any other comments?
I remember thinking, well, we have a baseball team.
Forget the White Sox! Oh no!
Not so much. I say St. Petersburg's future is now, and I vote yes.
This was going to happen until it didn't. Those owners were going to do what they were going to do.
Gamble signing the clean shoulder blade in his spine. Honorable people were not involved.
After being told by Major League Baseball, no, 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 finally,
We got him.
It's a beautiful century for baseball here on Florida's West Coast. Welcome, friends, to the Rise of the Rays, the decades-long saga of how Tampa Bay finally attracted its very own Major League Baseball team, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Sure, we almost got the Twins, the A's, the Rangers, but we didn't. We almost got the White Sox, the Giants, and the Mariners, but we didn't. And we almost got a National League expansion team, but we didn't. We got the Rays, and how that happened is a devil of a story. Let's meet the rivals. It's baseball versus St. Petersburg versus Tampa. Major League Baseball starts our story. In 1982, there were 26 Major League Baseball teams. And as far as baseball was concerned, that was enough teams, and they were all in the right places.
Whenever we started, I had to learn something about baseball. And what I learned is that it's a club. Very, very closed club. Extremely closed club. They were very happy with what they had.
Baseball doesn't want to expand. Baseball is very happy with the status quo.
You know, we go back to Tampa and go to hell. That's kind of what they said.
Looks like baseball is going to be a tough opponent. But St. Petersburg and Tampa both think they are Major League material.
The idea of could we support professional sports in Tampa Bay was new. During the 60s and 70s, you couldn't find a seat in LA. You couldn't find a seat in Dunedin or Clearwater or Bradenton or Sarasota during all this time of spring training. You look at what happens in Tampa with the early success of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. You know, the Buccaneers is NFL football. So the idea of professional baseball coming to Tampa Bay and to St. Petersburg, I think as our community continued to grow, it was the right time.
I always thought, yeah, this is a natural. Couple of years, we'll have a baseball team.
If it were that easy, Dave, we wouldn't have this story to tell. The St. Petersburg and Tampa are two different places, separated by a common body of water. They do start this pursuit, though, as rivals.
the wide body of water between the bays was just huge. I mean, there was so much differences between the two sides.
Look at every major market where water separates. The communities are entirely different. New York, New Jersey, San Francisco, Oakland, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
There's always been that competitive edge between both sides of the bay. They got the great beaches and Tampa has the bays.
St. Petersburg was really the tourist. Nothing wrong with that at all. But this was the industrial hub of the west coast of Florida.
Every time some major construction occurred, it was in Tampa. The big football stadiums in Tampa. The whole military was all in Tampa.
Probably the first real rivalry is which airport was being designated international.
Nothing that St. Petersburg ever wanted ever ended up in St. Petersburg. It always ended up in Tampa.
So St. Pete decided, well, enough of that. We can play this game too.
We've had a long history of baseball in St. Petersburg.
Al Lang, who was the mayor of St. Petersburg, loved baseball, and he was smart enough to know that if you invite baseball teams to come to town for spring training, you're going to draw a lot of fans from those towns.
1914, the St. Louis Browns come, and it just opened the floodgates after that. The Yankees pretty much put us on the map. In 1925, you know, for about, 10 years or so, every spring you could have walked around downtown and there would have been Babe Ruth, like walking down Central Avenue.
See Lou Gehrig feeding the pigeons, quite a few stories about Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin and their gang.
In 1922, and really until the Mets left in 1987, you had New York media here for the first quarter of the year.
It really, in a way, was what made St. Petersburg, St. Petersburg.
In 1937, the St. Louis Cardinals agreed to come here. They stayed here until 1997. There's no team that's ever been affiliated with Tampa Bay as long as the Cardinals.
A lot of those people that came here then turned around and moved here, and that helped the city grow.
Jack Blake, former executive with the Times, really was Mr. Baseball in St. Pete.
Jack was a go-getter. He envisioned, along with Jim Healy, that it might be possible to bring baseball here.
They fly all around the country just to get a minute with some of these owners, the barons of baseball, so to speak, and kind of whisper in their ear, look, when you expand again, you know, you've got to consider us. If you're going to move a team, you've got to consider us.
St. Pete has a great baseball tradition, but Tampa has its own history and a long list of homegrown ball players.
I grew up in West Tampa. Baseball was like a religion. Everyone talked baseball. We played every Sunday, all summer long. The skating parks where our pro team played. Tampa Smokers was the name of the team. And it was an international league because Havana was in the league. Drew great crowds. What else did you do? There's no TV.
During the spring training time, Tampa at Al Lopez Field, they had the Cincinnati team and the White Sox. I'm watching Pete Rose when he was a rookie.
Tampa produced a lot of ball players. Al Lopez was the first. He's also the most important.
Your parents would tell you, you know, you got to be like Al Lopez. Look what he did. You know, he came from humble beginnings and he made it.
He was an all-star catcher, an all-star and Hall of Fame manager.
He was a hero. He was an idol. It was all the kids in West Tampa and Ybor City.
Al had a tremendous influence. We really helped a lot of us understand what a major leaguer looked like.
You had Lou Piniella, David Magadan, Tina Martinez, Tony Larissa,
Doc Gooden, Gary Sheffield,
Luis Gonzalez, Steve Garvey. It goes on and on and on.
Fred McGriff, he'll be the fourth person with Tampa roots to be in the Hall of Fame.
So, both sides of the Bay are thinking big and both have a good baseball story. But Tampa has an early advantage. It has a potential team owner.
Frank Morsani is a Tampa businessman.
The car dealer, soft-spoken man, seemed to be a humble man. He wasn't one to pat himself on the back a lot. But I quickly learned that he's a mover and shaker.
I never had seen a Major League Baseball game. However, looking at the history of baseball in our community, well, it was time that we had baseball here. He said, all right, I'll try to lead the effort.
he assembled an ownership group that he believed would be a credit to baseball.
George Steinbrenner was a supporter of us all the way. Frederick Tallis had been the general manager for George Steinbrenner for 8 years. I had a meeting with him and I said, would you consider coming on board and creating an effort for Major League Baseball?
When you've got Frank Morsani on your side, a city as big as Tampa, along with a solid baseball man, a career baseball man in Cedric Tallis, I thought, these guys have a real chance.
And we're underway in the first inning. It's 1982, and Frank Morsani is the first to bat, and he wants to move an existing franchise to Tampa.
The poorest attendance was Minneapolis. Their average attendance was less than 650,000 a year, versus everybody else was high millions. We decided that we would purchase 42%.
Morsani Group bought Adam and RDO, and now they're in the room. And we all got excited because we thought the Twins were going to move to Tampa until
Carl Pohlad decided he wanted to keep it in Minneapolis.
Morsani is rounding third, but it looks like baseball is blocking home plate. And now there's a conversation between baseball, Morsani, and Twins owner Carl Pohlad. That's weird.
So they go to a owners meeting in Philadelphia, and Bowie Kuhn, the commissioner at the time, walks out with an announcement where he says the Tampa Bay Baseball Group agreed to sell their percentage to Pohlad. The team will stay in Minneapolis.
Baseball asked him to basically back out of the deal, and there would be future considerations that he would end up with a team later.
I think they thought at that point that that would definitely give Tampa a privileged position.
We found that later? Not so much.
Second inning now, St. Petersburg does not have a big bat like Morsani, but they do have the best utility guy in the game, and he is hustling.
And I would see the name Rick Dodge, and I would see assistant city manager. And I'm thinking, okay, what is an assistant city manager doing, being so involved in these baseball talks?
Assistant city manager of St. Petersburg, Rick Dodge.
Rick Dodge.
Rick Dodge, the most powerful assistant city manager in the history of the United States.
Rick Dodge was a civil servant who went well above and beyond his duties to try to bring baseball to St. Petersburg.
He understood the facts, he understood the position of the community, and he understood baseball, and so he was our point man.
Rick Dodge could make things move simply by talking to people behind the scenes.
He was sent to go anywhere and any place to argue to get a baseball team in St. Petersburg.
While St. Petersburg's assistant city manager is busy talking to owners, Frank Morsani and the Tampa Group are out here buying teams again.
I actually made a deal to buy the Oakland A's. They agreed to sell. Then I get a call from the president of the Oakland A's said, well, we're having a press conference this afternoon. We received a $10 million grant from the city of Oakland to upgrade the stadium. Therefore, we're not going through with the deal.
That's 2 strikes now for the Tampa side so far, but look who's coming to the plate. It's Frank Morsani again.
We had a call from Texas. The owner of the Texas Rangers was in a lot of financial trouble. They couldn't get anybody in Texas to step up to the pump and do anything about it. I had met with them, and they had agreed to sell. So I flew to New York. We met with Peter Rubroff. unfortunately, Rubroth is not an honorable man. We're meeting. He said, I want to tell you this meeting does not exist. Okay, doesn't exist. So then we started talking about Childs and buying the Texas Ranger. And he said, I will support it. We need to get him out of there. You guys go right ahead and make your deal with Childs, and I'll support it.
The contract called for Eddie Childs to use his best efforts to help the sale get approved. We go to an ownership meeting. We're waiting for Eddie in the lobby of a very nice hotel, and he walks in, and he just turns a 180, starts saying, I didn't know they wanted to move my team to Tampa. That's just wrong. We can't have that. And the deal collapsed.
The Rangers will stay in Texas, and Eddie Childs sells the team to an investor group fronted by George W. Bush. Once again, baseball strikes out Tampa and more sun.
He began to realize that he wasn't dealing with the most honorable cast of character.
The commissioner of baseball could make the final decision for that kind of a transaction. Peter Rubroth had full authority. Of course, he denies that today. There wasn't any meeting, you see. This meeting did not occur.
Texas ended up with this great, wonderful ballpark in Arlington.
At the same time, St. Petersburg kept saying they were going to build a stadium.
We build a ballpark, as in that movie, they will come.
Third inning, still no team on the way, but St. Petersburg needs an advantage over Tampa. They are going to build a baseball stadium. What the hell are they thinking?
The St. Petersburg City Council at the time either made, some thought the stupidest decision, some thought the smartest decision to authorize building the stadium.
The stadium would be built in what we call the gateway site, halfway between Tampa and St. Pete.
And then the idea of the gas plant came up in St. Petersburg.
St. Pete said, no, we think we'll build it downtown. The Tampa people go, no, that's crazy. You don't do it.
Public money would build the stadium in St. Petersburg, but the advantage was that they were going to get the gas plant for $1.
1987, our principal goal, our first goal, was for this community to achieve economic vitality. We were going to prime the pump with public money into the private sector. The stadium was the biggest, the Bay Plaza project, renovating the pier, renovating Bayfront Center, annexing 1,100 acres north of town.
George Steinbrenner, living in Tampa at that point, told me in no uncertain terms, and I printed it, do not proceed St. Petersburg with building this stadium. We're not going to guarantee you a team out of this, and you're going to be sorry if you do.
I think it was the quote from Jack Lake. He said, and they told us not to build a stadium. And I kind of, did they really say that? Don't build it? He said, yes, they did. They said it would be counterproductive if you do. And Pinellas County went ahead and built one anyway, ignoring what baseball told them.
I say St. Petersburg's future is now, and I vote yes. The council voted 6-3 to go ahead with the project.
There was a lot of dissension, a lot of anger.
The use of public money angered many.
And anger that was not unjustified.
Our funds, our tourism funds that were of such value to us at the time, should not have just been, without a referendum at least, or something of that nature, just siphoned off in that magnitude towards the stadium.
And of course, several of those who supported this stadium fell to the voters' vote in the next election.
So they built the Suncoast Dome, $138 million of bonds.
In 4 years, we raised taxes twice. Wasn't anybody happy about that? But we had a stadium to build, and it was in process.
They built the stadium
very big and very expensive.
They certainly did. And once they built it, they then had to find a team to play ball in it.
Fourth inning, and Rick Dodge coming to the plate for St. Pete. He does not have a checkbook, but he does have a ballpark.
There had been stories in newspapers about the White Sox needing a new ballpark and having trouble getting it.
There were fights every night, and people stealing the cars out of the lots.
Comiskey Park was not any place you'd really want to go for anything other than a ball game if you were a fan.
We were having a lot of trouble in the legislature. Governor Thompson at the time had told me that while he wanted to get a stadium for the White Sox, it would be very difficult unless we had an alternative. Nobody who owns a Major League franchise wants to move it.
Not without good reason. Sox owners say having a play in the decrepit Comiskey Park is reason enough.
Rick tried to convince me that we should just pick up and go to St. Petersburg.
We all kind of laughed. Yeah, okay, right. Chicago White Sox would move to St. Pete. Well, Reinsdorf took him seriously.
There was a lot of substance to it. It wasn't all salesmanship and con. He knew what he was talking about.
The legislature had been given an ultimatum. Either give me a stadium or I'm out of here.
And the deadline was midnight on July 1st, 1988.
Very soon, White Sox baseball might be this dome in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Jared really was planning on moving the ball club.
Improbable as it would have sounded, a team leaving Chicago for St. Petersburg, Florida, yet there were a lot of reasons that it made a lot of sense and looked like it was going to happen. This one seemed the most real.
Sorry, fellas. It's June 30th, 1988. St. Pete and Rick Dodge have the bases loaded, and they are just minutes away from moving the White Sox to their new dome.
You remember that night? Where it was?
Everybody remembers that night.
They had a midnight deadline in the state capital of Illinois to approve funding for the stadium or it would go away. And it didn't look like it was going to pass.
Forget the White Sox! Vote no!
I remember watching it on live TV here.
5 minutes to 12, and the die was almost cast. The White Sox were coming to St. Pete.
Here comes midnight, and here we go past midnight, and no decision. And I remember thinking, well, that's it then. We have a baseball team.
A local TV announcer is going, it's midnight. They're moving to St. Pete. Yeah. Wait a minute, what?
But lo and behold, at the 11th hour, 59th minute, 59th second,
they literally stopped the clock.
Literally pulled the plug on the clock.
Everybody just looks stunned that this is Illinois politics, right?
they extended the session another several minutes, and the governor of Illinois had gone on the floor of the legislature.
The governor wouldn't let the White Sox vote.
You actually saw him go up to people, get real close, give them that firm handshake, whisper something that wasn't a sweet nothing in their ear. Suddenly people that were going to vote against it voted for it.
And before it got to 12 the second time, they had to vote.
The state legislature approves a plan to build a new White Sox stadium in the city of Chicago. Details tonight.
It was a tantalizing and frustrating experience for the people in Tampa Bay watching that unfold.
St. Petersburg was a great city, great fan support. They're going to have a heck of a stadium, put them #1 on the list for expansion.
Well, knowing what I know about Chicago, because I grew up in the suburbs there, it didn't surprise me that those politicians in the state of Illinois could pull some crap like that.
Well, Rick Dodge has struck out, but plenty of innings left to play.
The fact that the Chicago White Sox would consider moving from Chicago to St. Petersburg validated St. Pete, along with the effort to build the stadium, and along with the fact that, they marketed it as the Tampa Bay area.
It totally legitimized Tampa Bay as a Major League Baseball market.
Did Joe just say Tampa Bay? He didn't say St. Pete. Let's look at that again in slow motion. Wow, that's a new one, and let me tell you, these guys are 0 for 4 against baseball, but if they start working together, this is a whole new ballgame. Welcome to the 5th inning. St. Petersburg's new dome has attracted one new potential baseball owner to Tampa Bay. It's Tampa's Frank Morsani.
I think he eventually realized, being the pragmatic man that he is, the two sides really have to do a better effort of coming together to try to show baseball we are a united community, not two different sides of the bay.
Morsani agreed to abandon plans for a stadium in Tampa, and that if he got a team, it would play in the St. Petersburg Stadium.
The Bay Area, once divided, now has its civic and political leaders united in the quest for a team.
It behooved everyone to let's try to work together now. How do you make things happen?
It's June 1990, and everything is coming together for Tampa Bay's Major League Baseball dream. There's a stadium, there's an owner, and now baseball is ready to announce it's expanding to 28 teams.
Baseball is talking about the decision made today in Cleveland about putting expansion teams on the field in 1993. And we'll hear from some of the insiders who think that we have a pretty good chance of having a baseball team in the Suncoast Dome by 1993.
And then by September of 1991, the two winners will be announced.
Expansion is drawing a crowd. Denver, Miami, Orlando, Washington, D.C., Buffalo. It looks like they are all in line behind Tampa Bay.
We have the state-of-the-art facility ready in the best marketplace with a terrific ownership group and a great broadcast market, all wrapped up, and those are the ingredients that baseball is going to look at.
It was fairly well thought that it was going to be Tampa Bay and Denver.
Florida Suncoast Dome that is already in place, in essence, got the stamp of approval from Major League Baseball owners when indeed the Chicago White Sox were on the verge of moving to the Tampa Bay area.
I probably gave some credibility to the St. Petersburg area, but the other owners had to make a decision, based upon what they thought.
It seemed like Tampa Bay had its act together. They had the owner who'd been through experience with Major League Baseball in Frank Morsani. He promised a quid pro quo of future considerations. They had an agreement with him to play in the stadium that was built, so they looked like they were all set.
This is the right market. This is the right time, and Major League Baseball is going to come here.
Holy smokes, wait a minute. It looks like the Morsani Group is not the only batter up for Tampa Bay.
One of the surprises that came up was the men who owned the local St. Petersburg Cardinals minor league team, Stephen Porter, wanted to represent Tampa Bay. They had the connection with Bud Selig, a very powerful owner, future commissioner of baseball.
Because there were competing ownership groups, baseball had to designate which group would represent the area.
Commissioner Fay Vincent has said many times, most recently today, that stability of ownership is going to be very, very important. They want an owner to be able to sustain a team during years of losses.
The Frank Morsani Group appeared to be the strongest group out there.
Porter Group kind of showed up, and no one really knew what to make of them. No one was sure exactly where their money was coming from. No one was sure what their intentions were.
Suppose majority owner by the name of Steve Porter, he made an appointment with me because here I am, chairman of the largest Fortune 500 company. And he said, I'm really here to get your commitment for a number of millions of dollars that would have equaled all of our minority investments. And I knew we had a phony right from the start.
In 1991, baseball is ready to announce 2 expansion teams. One to Frank Morsani to play at the Suncoast Dome in St. Petersburg, and the other team to, who cares? It's Tampa Bay's time.
So we have the economic weight to handle Major League Baseball's department in these circumstances.
Frank, let me ask you.
Morsani was the one who was supposed to get,
Much to the surprise of a lot of people, especially Frank Morsani, baseball picked the Porter Group to go forward.
We were led to believe that the Porter Group had financial backing from the Cole brothers from Wisconsin, and also maybe Roy Disney of Disney. Maybe.
They rejected Frank Morsani, who didn't get the promise fulfilled that he could have the next expansion franchise.
Stabbed Morsani right between the shoulder blade and his spine. They sent him a fax, said, "You're not going to be the owner." We chose the other group. And that was despicable. Good grief, give the man a courtesy anyway.
My wife would tell you, "Why, I told you a dozen times to get out of this damn baseball." That's what she told me day after day after day. I said, "Well, I'm already committed." Of course, we suffered the consequences. Never have gone over it, really. Honorable people were not involved.
Baseball took a little bit of the spirit out of him.
I borrowed a lot of money, and the people that loaned me the money thought we were going to get baseball.
Wow. Baseball picks Porter over Frank Morsani? I don't know who Stephen Porter is, but I'm pretty sure it's a bad sign.
The National League is so tight-lipped about everything right now that really the only thing we have to go on are rumors. And the latest rumor is that Miami and Denver have moved to the head of the expansion class.
Wayne Huizenga in Miami seemed to jump into the lead.
Wayne Huizenga got involved. The man who founded essentially the Blockbuster video franchise and Waste Management, 2 major companies. He had very lot of substance to him.
Back then, our lives revolved around Blockbuster. I could see where baseball would look at that and say, I can see a marriage there.
When it came right down to awarding the expansion team, the Porter Group didn't have the financial backing.
Their finances fell apart.
Well, today is a very exciting day for South Florida.
The expansion team ended up in Miami with the Florida Marlins.
We received word from Bill White this afternoon that we are one of the 2 finalists.
It almost made me wonder, if I were prone to believe in conspiracies, that baseball knew that that other group was shaky. Morsani would have been very difficult to turn down.
Major League Baseball was playing games with us from the start. I don't think they ever intended to consider St. Petersburg, but they couldn't do that publicly. This is my opinion.
by God, those owners were going to do what they were going to do.
Going in, everyone knew there were going to be 4 unsuccessful candidates. It's too bad. One hopes that they understand the process was legitimate and the course was very prudently followed.
Rick, he did feel it. He felt that public trust, and he felt like he hadn't fulfilled it. He's like, okay, I'm down, but we're not out. We're going to come back and do this one more time and make one more phone call.
Coming up next, the Florida Suncoast Dome. A construction marvel, all right, that must now live up to its $110 million billing, attracting more than just praise, but major events and people to fill these now empty seats.
It's opening day in Denver and Miami, but here in Tampa Bay, the dome sits empty. This is 1.1 million square feet of empty. It's the first 7-inning stretch that will last 8 years.
You can't just sit there and be a money-sucking machine.
Tonight, more than 28,000 are expected at the official grand opening.
We determined that if we could do 120 event nights a year in the stadium, that it would be cash flow neutral.
The Suncoast Home and Garden Show. February 15th for International Folk Fair. March 16th through the 18th. The Florida Suncoast.
I can remember taking my 2-year-old son to the largest Halloween party in Halloween history. I took him to the trucks that would smash into each other. We had the largest garage sale at the travel. We had 35,000 people at Lightning games.
There's a lot going on in the Suncoast Dome, but it sure ain't baseball. We go to the 8th inning, and Tampa Bay has lost 5 consecutive times. Frank Morsani is out of the game now, and Rick Dodge needs some help. And here comes Jack Critchfield out of the bullpen.
After the Morsani group was torpedoed, we didn't have a lot of billionaire guys sitting around here with a blank checkbook to pull this off.
I'm not sure credit is given adequately to the board of directors of Florida Progress, specifically Jack Critchfield.
Dr. Jack Critchfield really galvanized the community and all the business leaders.
I wasn't really involved until Mayor Fisher contacted me right after we didn't get the National League expansion team and asked me if I would kind of lead the parade and really get something going here that would work. And I thought, you know, Major League Baseball could fit here very well. And it's got a history, so it shouldn't be that hard to get a team. And I expect about a month later I got a call from Rick Dodge. He thought the Seattle Mariners might very well be interested in relocating.
Jeff Smulyan was looking for either a new stadium or looking to move.
There's no doubt this franchise can generate more revenue than many other cities. The challenge is to give it enough revenues to stay competitive in the American League for this city.
They had a decrepit, falling apart stadium, the Kingdome, and their attendance was lousy.
The franchise has been losing between $6 and $10 million a year.
It just seemed like, okay, Seattle's too hip for baseball. And they were right to move.
Jeff Smulyan may be willing to move the Mariners, but Seattle isn't willing to let them go.
We're not giving up any rights simply to allow Mr. Smulyan to take the team to Florida.
The problem was he had a lease that required him to give the Seattle market an opportunity to keep the team. If they could come up with a viable ownership group, he had to sell it to them.
According to the lease at the Kingdome, the community now has 120 days, or until March the 26th, to come up with a local buyer.
If no one comes forward in 120 days, the franchise clearly has the right to leave Seattle. Yes, we do believe that.
And here's a company that's ready for the move. Wouldn't it be nice if baseball could move this quickly?
Fans, you know this doesn't end well for Tampa Bay, but get a load of how this thing happened.
A group of Seattle business leaders made the announcement today. They say they found a group willing to put upwards of $125 million in cash into buying and running the Seattle Mariners.
Hiroshi Yamauchi, the chairman of Nintendo, has stepped up. Maybe Major League Baseball forbids foreign ownership of teams. Or do they?
Nintendo and its offer to buy some 60% of the Seattle Mariners stand between Tampa Bay and its Field of Dreams. Will Major League Baseball succumb to pressure and accept this offer? Something Major League owners vowed they would never do.
It is still baseball's view that local ownership, North American ownership in specific, is the preferred, strongly viewed, preferential ownership for baseball.
Before you know it, there were deals done in the back rooms.
The ownership committee of Major League Baseball has just completed its meeting on the Seattle matter.
And there was no deal.
They changed their bylaws to permit a foreign investor, and Nintendo was the foreign investor.
But here we go again, baseball.
They wanted to keep a franchise on the West Coast, to go with Oakland and the Los Angeles Angels at that point in time.
And they said the reason that they weren't going to move Seattle to Tampa Bay was because of the kids of Seattle.
Seattle already lost one Major League team when Milwaukee car dealer Bud Selig bought the Seattle Pilots and moved them to Wisconsin, creating the Milwaukee Brewers in 1970.
Apparently the kids didn't matter then. But at any rate, that was the reason given.
But something else happened at that meeting. The night before this vote took place, the Giants sent around a news release that they would now consider selling the team to somebody who would move it out of San Francisco.
Instantly, Rick Dodge says the next one is San Francisco.
About 6 in the morning, my phone rings probably half a dozen times.
I hear the phone ringing.
It's Rick Dodge going, pick up, pick up.
Rick Dodge is screaming into the phone, we bought the Giants, we bought the Giants.
We got them.
Tampa Bay has a new designated hitter here in the 9th inning. It's Vince Naimoli. I've never heard of him.
Vince Naimoli, that was the first time he got involved. Even though he was a very successful, very prominent, and very rich businessman who lived in Tampa, he had kept an incredible low profile. His name had never been in our paper before.
He was basically a turnaround artist.
Had he not come along, we wouldn't have been able to make the offer to the Giants. He came into my office to introduce himself and to say that he was interested in being an investor in a baseball franchise. He was the first one to commit to 51% ownership.
He started meeting with Rick Dodge. I thought Rick Dodge called him every minute of the day.
Rick and I were both aware that Mr. Lloyd was waiting for a bond issue to build a new stadium for him. And it failed. We had representatives coming here. They visited the dome. We visualized what it would look like for baseball.
We've got a serious problem in San Francisco, and we need to find a way to solve it.
Rick, Dodge, Vince Naimoli, others that were involved in the effort negotiated and signed a contract to relocate the Giants to St. Petersburg.
Vince Naimoli is rounding third and he's headed home to the dome. It looks like the Giants are coming to Tampa Bay.
They had a deal. The then Commissioner of Baseball, Dave Vincent, on the phone, approved it. We had the opening press conference and announced that the Giants were coming to Tampa Bay. Big headlines in the newspaper.
We printed up special sections. I still have a copy. Tampa Bay has a Giant deal. Tampa Bay Giants uniforms were designed by Major League Baseball. T-shirts everywhere.
We all felt good about it.
I mean, this was going to happen until it didn't.
Major League Baseball did not want the Giants to relocate.
We were Bill White away from getting the Giants.
Ultimately, he felt, as president of the National League, that a team shouldn't leave San Francisco to come to St. Petersburg. There's some geographical reasons for that, competitive reasons, but probably the history and tradition as much as anything.
He didn't want to see them become the Tampa Bay Giants. That just spoiled the entire baseball plan. The whole history of baseball would have been put on off its axis.
Namoli is caught in a rundown, but I thought he had a deal. How can baseball keep the Giants in San Francisco?
Bill White was apparently meeting with everybody he could to find somebody who could put up supposedly 51% and meet the qualifying goals of baseball to be the majority owner. Commissioner of Baseball, the acting commissioner, directed him to do it.
Mr. Silik, why is it that the San Francisco group has been allowed to make several proposals?
I really don't have any other comments.
Similar to the White Sox situation, they extended the clock. They basically said they're going to give San Francisco groups time to assemble a better offer.
And now there seems to be some question of whether or not there will be a bid submitted by tomorrow, the deadline, to Bill White and the National League. So I guess all of us need to wait and see, again, one more day, what's going to happen with the next tale.
They extended that deadline a couple times. It was very, very frustrating for Vince Namoli and the Tampa Bay people.
The obvious question, why has San Francisco been given opportunity after opportunity to make a competitive offer?
It's appropriate not to move a team unless the city that the team is in has been given every opportunity to keep the team.
Now, I hate to see franchises moving willy-nilly, and if there is a legitimate buyer in San Francisco, that we have to give San Francisco group serious consideration.
We've been saying that we expect baseball to do the right thing, and that we expect them to act on our application favorably, because this community and this ownership group has done the right thing.
Ultimately, Major League Baseball is a private enterprise. They can decide how they want to operate.
Baseball was looking at the long term. They wanted to pull the strings. They wanted to make sure that they were in charge.
And at the last minute, he went and found new ownership for the San Francisco Giants and kept them in San Francisco.
Mr. Roy was required to take a significant amount less than the contract we offered him.
Some quick math will tell you that San Francisco's offer is $20 million less than Tampa Bay's.
It was a bad deal for him. It really was.
The vote was as a result of, I think, a very, very meaningful and a very caring discussion. Now, obviously, in situations like that, there are going to be some people who are very unhappy.
And the vote went the way it did, and there were winners and there were losers, and that's baseball.
I guess we're going to extra innings because we know Tampa Bay still does not have a baseball team, but it seems like they just won't give up.
At this point, I had enough of Major League Baseball. I think I knew how Mr. Morsani felt. Not that they did it, but the way they did it, to me, was not just ungentlemanly. It was just bad. It was just wrong. And I think the only way you're going to get this team is to do to them what they've done to others. So
Vince was angry. He was the person that my word is my bond, my handshake makes a deal done. Mr. Namoli and the city decided to file suit against all the teams in Major League Baseball, which is the way you have to sue Major League Baseball. No judge is going to award a Major League Baseball team to you, but he clearly understood the leverage part of it.
We began to hear rumors that, well, expansion's back on the table. I will always believe it was because of Vince Namoli's lawsuit. He was going to win that lawsuit.
People want to avoid litigation. And remember, all of these owners were going to make a ton of money from the expansion price tag.
Remember when the Pilots left Seattle for Milwaukee? Seattle sued the American League, and in return for dropping the lawsuit, baseball awarded Seattle the Mariners in 1977 Lawsuits are not a new threat to baseball, but they are a very, very effective strategy.
After a couple of months, Mr. Namoli got a phone call saying, "You dropped the lawsuit. You and Critchfield come to Chicago, make a presentation to the owners, and you'll get a new franchise along with another city, which was Phoenix."
There's like one final meeting, and that should make it official.
And it was kind of anticlimactic, except for one thing.
The day before, which was March 8th, rumors started getting around that the deal wasn't done.
Old buddy Wayne Huizinga had gone into yet another owners meeting and said, "Look, we're selling this team too cheap. We need to jack the price up."
Vince and Jerry Colangelo were told that the expansion fee was increased from $90 million to $135 million.
You know, he sort of had them over a barrel. And Vince, being Vince, threatened to just call the whole thing off.
This thing was in danger of falling apart.
They wanted it done their way. If they can squeeze out every dollar they can from a prospective buyer.
They ultimately had to pay the higher price.
After being turned down so many times and told by Major League Baseball, no, no, no.
Major League Baseball voted 28-0 to award expansion franchises Tampa, St. Petersburg, and Phoenix, Arizona.
Finally, we have our baseball team.
The heaviest part of anything is holding up people's dreams in their pocket and being responsible for them even in a little way. If there's anything we can say about our area, it's been relentless and businesslike. And that paid off today.
I think this is the greatest day in the history of Tampa Bay.
Here comes your Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
The gates to Tropicana Field swung open just a few minutes ago, and we're now just a short time away from the start of Devil Rays baseball.
Can't wait for it all year long. I remember the opening game sold out in about 7 minutes.
There are about 45,000 people enjoying today's game.
I mean, you talked about something that there was a build-up to.
Look at the crush of the crowd. You can see the excitement in their eyes. This is a dramatic day in Tampa Bay, a day decades in the making.
Tampa Bay is a real baseball community. It's been a hard road. To see all that hard work and those dreams be realized was really something special.
Opening day was so exciting. You know, after all those garage sales, after all those Halloween parties, after watching the trucks.
The stadium was packed, and it was rocking.
We had in our little town of St. Petersburg, Major League Baseball.
That was the greatest day in Tampa Bay baseball history for sure. On March 31st, 1998, there was a Major League Baseball game being played in St. Petersburg, Florida, and the home team were the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. That was the culmination of almost 20 years of effort. That was the most glorious day.
That wraps up the rise of the Rays. Rick Dodge left St. Petersburg government in 1997 and passed away in 2020. Frank Borsatti emerged from bankruptcy and made enormous charitable contributions in the Bay Area. He has never attended a Rays baseball game. Vince DeMolli sold his stake in the race in 2004, and he passed away in 2019. Jack Critchfield and his wife Mary have seats behind home plate, and they still attend every game. Today, downtown St. Petersburg thrives, with many attributing its growth in part to the Rays. The Rays lease at Tropicana Field ends in 2027. It's an old but familiar story to you by now. The team wants a new stadium, so other cities have come calling. The Rays could stay in St. Pete, or they could leave for Montreal, Charlotte, Nashville, Portland, Las Vegas, Sacramento, Orlando, or, as ever, there is always Tampa. But that's a whole other story. So long,